For Native Americans, ensuring a steady supply of food was no ordinary task. It was a challenge filled with danger, demanding both skill and resilience. Food procurement was a full-time job, one that required constant vigilance and bravery. While many of the food sources they relied on are no longer common today, some have made a comeback in modern cuisine, celebrated for their uniqueness and historical significance. Before European colonization, Native Americans had developed sophisticated methods of hunting, gathering, and preserving food, tailored to the diverse environments they inhabited. Their dietary practices varied widely, reflecting the rich ecosystems of North America. One of the earliest known groups, the Clovis people, played a significant role in shaping the continent's prehistoric landscape. Although they may not have been the very first humans to set foot in the Americas, they were among the first to establish widespread settlements. Their hunting prowess was legendary, and they are often associated with the extinction of several species of megafauna, including the mammoth. Archaeological evidence from 19 Clovis sites shows that mammoths were a primary food source, but their diet also included mastodons, bison, deer, rabbits, and caribou. Their preference for large game animals reflected the abundance of megafauna in their environment. Clovis hunters didn't limit themselves to just mammoths. In present-day Mexico, they hunted gomphothers, massive, elephant-like creatures, which also went extinct during this period. Further north, Clovis groups hunted an even more surprising animal, camels. Ancient camels once roamed across large swaths of what is now Canada, but they too disappeared, likely due to overhunting. As the era of the Clovis people came to a close, a new group emerged, the Folsom culture, which thrived on the Great Plains from around 9,000 to 8,000 BCE. Unlike their predecessors, the Folsom people adapted to changing conditions following the extinction of mammoths by focusing on hunting bison. The bison they hunted were not the same as the modern bison we know today. These were bison antiquus, larger, more imposing creatures that could grow up to 15 feet in length, stand 7 feet tall at the shoulder, and sport horns with a span of 3 feet. Hunting these massive beasts required innovation. Folsom people developed advanced hunting tools, including pointed projectiles designed for use with bows and darts, rather than the spears favored by the Clovis. Their reliance on bison as a food source shaped their way of life, making them migratory. They followed the great herds across the plains, ensuring a steady supply of meat and hides. This migratory lifestyle was facilitated by their intimate knowledge of the land and their ability to craft tools that allowed for efficient hunting. By 7,000 to 4,500 BCE, the Plano culture had emerged, further refining hunting techniques. Unlike earlier groups that hunted individual animals, the Plano people employed a method known as the buffalo jump. Large groups of hunters would drive entire herds of bison off cliffs, ensuring a bountiful harvest. To preserve the vast amounts of meat they obtained, the Plano developed innovative food storage techniques. They dried the meat in the sun, mixed it with seeds, berries, and fat, and packed it into animal intestines to create pemmican, a high-energy food that could be stored for long periods. Despite their ingenuity, the Plano culture eventually declined due to changes in climate and a reduction in bison herds. Shifts in weather patterns made it harder to sustain large-scale hunting, leading to the eventual disappearance of the Plano people. However, not all Native American societies faded away. The Yurok people, for example, have endured through the centuries and continue to maintain many of their traditional ways of life. The Yurok have long inhabited the Klamath River region along the coast of California. Their diet has historically been based on the rich resources of their environment. They relied heavily on fish, particularly salmon, sturgeon, and candlefish, as well as seaweed and mussels. On land, they hunted deer and elk and gathered acorns, berries, and various teas. The Yurok are even known to have eaten banana slugs. Today, they continue to harvest from the same mussel beds and wild salmonberry bushes that sustained their ancestors, and they strive to pass on these traditions to future generations. In Louisiana, the Poverty Point culture flourished around the same time that Stonehenge was being constructed in England. Between 1100 BCE, these Native Americans built massive earthworks, including mounds and circular structures, using around 2 million cubic yards of dirt. Despite their impressive construction efforts, the people of Poverty Point left behind little evidence of agriculture. Instead, they appeared to rely entirely on hunting and gathering. Their primary food sources came from nearby rivers and wetlands. Archaeological evidence shows that they hunted freshwater fish, turtles, snakes, alligators, frogs, and small mammals like rabbits and squirrels. Waterfowl such as ducks and geese also played a significant role in their diet. Moving to the American Southwest, the Anasazi are best known for their remarkable cliff dwellings carved into rock faces. However, they were also pioneers in agriculture. Around 1200 BCE, the Anasazi began settling in the region and cultivating crops. Initially, they focused on corn, but over time, they selectively bred crops to create hardier variety. By 500 BCE, beans and squash had been added to their agricultural repertoire. Their diet was supplemented with meat from rabbits and deer. The Anasazi were experts in food preservation, sun-drying vegetables to store them for future use. Initially, they used baskets for storage, but as their society evolved, they transitioned to pottery. While the Anasazi made significant advances in agriculture and food storage, their society was not without its challenges. Historical records indicate that as resources became scarce, tensions between communities escalated, leading to conflict, massacres, and even reports of cannibalism. These internal struggles persisted even after the arrival of the Spanish. Between 100 BCE and 500 CE, the Hopewell culture dominated much of what is now the eastern United States. Known for their elaborate burial mounds and vast trade networks, the Hopewell people cultivated crops such as tobacco, sunflowers, and nuts. They also gathered deer, fish, nuts, seeds, and berries. Trade allowed them to acquire goods from distant regions, including obsidian from Yellowstone, copper from the Great Lakes, and mica from the Appalachian Mountains. In the upper Mississippi River region, the Wota culture emerged around 1050 CE. They relied heavily on bison, deer, and elk, as well as crops like corn, beans, and squash. Goosefoot and pigweed were also dietary staples. Interestingly, the Wota are known to have eaten dogs, a practice confirmed by archaeological finds in the form of bell-shaped storage pits. These pits, covered with logs and hides, kept food fresh and protected it from scavengers. In northern Florida and the Mississippi River Delta, the Fort Walton culture thrived around 1200 CE. Emerging after the Weeden Island culture, the Fort Walton people adapted to their swampy environment by focusing on fishing and agriculture. They cultivated flint corn, a hardy variety with hard kernels that required special cooking methods. Their diet also included seafood, and they practiced a ritual involving the black drink made from Yopon holly, which was used in ceremonies. Lastly, the Cahokia culture reached its peak between 1050 and 12,000 to 100 CE. Known for their impressive mound complexes, the Cahokia revered farmers who provided food for their large population. They cultivated crops like squash, knotweed, and sunflowers, and they brewed cassina tea from native holly plants. This caffeinated beverage was so popular that it was documented by early European explorers. In recent years, there has been a revival of interest in traditional Native American diets. In 2017, artist Roxanne Swenzel worked on a project to promote these ancient foods as a means of improving health in modern Native communities. Volunteers who adopted a traditional Pueblo diet for 3 months reported significant health improvements, including reduced symptoms of chronic conditions like diabetes and high cholesterol. Swensel's work highlights the enduring value of these ancient food traditions and their potential to improve modern lives.